right, Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Uh-oh.
I hope everyone's having a beautiful Yom Teruah right now. And hopefully everyone is fine today and not trying to poke fingers or anything, but I think no one got raptured, okay? So I just want to talk about that as a transition into this study. There's been a lot of videos on YouTube, constant videos about Christians and stuff, and trying to pinpoint the exact day of the pre-trib rapture. I just kind of want to go into this study that's called "Why There's Going to Be No Rapture on the 23rd." Why we can be sure today there will be no rapture. I want to go into this history, documented history. You guys can check me on this, back up to make sure, be a Berean about what I'm about to say historically here. Okay. There was this guy, John Nelson Darby. He was part of the Plymouth Brethren. I'll show you guys what he looked like here on the shared screen. He was part of a weird Christian sect called the Plymouth Brothers or Plymouth Brethren. Very similar to, like, you got the Puritans and the what is it? What is the other ones called? Albigenses and all these Protestant reformers had all these weird intersect groups. So John Nelson Darby, he was very big for promoting what we would call modern day replacement theology, dispensationalism, which teaches that Yahuwah basically works with different people in different ways in different ages, which again, the problem with that is you are going to have to promote that Yahuwah changes then, and that he would give less requirements to a different people. And so the dispensationalism also teaches that because the Christians are now now the bride of his son, that Yahusha, that now there's no more law for this time period, the age of grace, and that. So this weird looking fella, this heretic, um, he's the one that taught this. John Nelson Darby. You can read about him here on Wikipedia. He was a big Bible teacher, preacher. He was part of the Plymouth Brethren sect. He was a founder, so you could even call him a cult leader because he pretty much found this denomination out of nowhere. He's considered to be the father of modern dispensationalism, futurism. Okay, pre-trib rapture theology popularized around the 1830s. Okay, so again, this was not a thing even in Christianity. This was not a thing until almost the 1900s. Okay, so you're talking about something that's very modern, something that would not be in scripture. It's something very modern, something just cooped up. Now, the conspiracy theory I'm going to give you, even though I can't give you proof, you also have this other guy named C.I. Scofield. Okay, if you grew up in the church and you were King James only Southern Baptist, you might have had his study Bible. Okay, C.I. Scofield. Okay, the King James Study Bible. Okay, he was another big proponent of this movement of Christian Zionism, what's called Christian Zionism today. And he was teaching in his little notes, his little commentary on the bottom of the page, that you got the church age, you got the Israel age, and this and that. So eventually people started being taught some of these false beliefs, and I'm going to go try to give you guys a brief summary of what these false beliefs are. And for you to be a pre-tribber, you would have to agree with these false beliefs. Pretty much, if you don't believe in these false beliefs, it makes no sense for you to be a pre-tribber. And here we go. First bullet point I have here. Okay, so
Hold on. Can I say
yeah,
something real quick?
yeah,
Can you just really quickly mention why we believe that there is a rapture for those that teach that there isn't one?
yeah,
The difference between what we believe
yeah,
versus what
definitely.
Christians.
So yeah, definitely. So I believe there's a rapture, and actually rapture's in the Bible. even in the Latin Vulgate. So the idea that there's no rapture in the Bible is a heretical view that some people are teaching in this walk, which is a shame. It's very shameful to be teaching that, because there, you can even look in the Latin Vulgate, that word is there in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. So rapture is a biblical word. Number two, in the Greek, it's a catching away. The better word I would say is it's a catching away in the sky. Mm-hmm. We do not believe in the classical rapture to heaven. I want to make that clear. We believe that what I teach, and I believe is biblical, is that Yahushua, when he returns, Yahuwah, when he returns, will gather his elect, right? Matthew 24, from the four winds of the earth up to the sky, the first heaven, up to the sky, the clouds. Then, when we're all changed and we have our physical resurrected bodies, we'll be like the messengers, right? Yahushua says in Matthew 25, you will be like the messengers, so you're not given into marriage, okay? That's all in the same context, okay? So then we become part of that heavenly army, and I can give you guys a couple of verses here to show proof of that, okay? How we, as now part of his heavenly army being resurrected, are now going to take part of the what is it called? The Day of Yahuwah, right? So we believe also, and I was going to get into this in a little bit, that we don't believe in two second comings. I want to make that very clear. I know the dispensationalists believe that. We don't. There's one second coming. The Day of Yahuwah is the second coming, right after the tribulation, immediately after the tribulation. So we believe in a post-trib catching away, Matthew 24:29, immediately after the tribulation of those days. So you can read on in that chapter for yourselves if you want to look more into that. But Yahushua verbatimly tells you around roughly when he's going to return is right after the tribulation's over. So if you want to interpret that 24 hours later, I would assume so, because the second coming is a 24-hour literal period. So I would say it's probably the day like right after the tribulation's over. Okay, so the idea, and I'm going to get to it in this study, the idea of Matthew 24:36, that it promotes a imminent rapture, that it can happen at any time, we're going to debunk that as well later in this study. That's not what Matthew 24:36 is even about. But anyway, so going along with what I'm talking about, what we believe in here is that we're being arpatzoed, caught up to the sky, given resurrected bodies, and now he has the messengers with us up in the sky with us, by the way, because when he returns, the messengers follow him in the sky. So now we're being part of that Malachim army, okay, that's coming down to execute vengeance of Yahuwah on the wicked, on the day of Yahuwah. So you'll see this in, let me see. And the easiest way to show this is look up the term saint or kadashim in your Bible. Only two types of people are saints. Malachim, messengers, or the 144,000. Those are the only two groups that are ever called saints. The Catholic idea of saints is unbiblical, so just forget about that. That's not what a saint is. So there, but let me see if I can show you here. So this is a prophecy from Enoch, by the way. So this is where we get this concept here from First Hanuk. That's where Jude is quoting from here. But Hanuk, the seventh from Adam, prophesied, means this is scripture, okay? To these, as he said, behold, the master Yahuwah comes with myriads, roughly translated into English as thousands or many of his kadashim, to do what? Judgment on all, to reprove all souls, because of all the works of those who did wickedness. No. Because of all the hard works, which evil sinners have spoken. These are those who murmur, and it talks about the murmurers, the complainers, the mockers, and all that. Okay, so these are the wicked that Yahuwah is destroying on the day of his second coming, Yahushua's second coming, the day of Yahuwah. Okay, this is that context. So basically, we're being caught up to the air and come right back down to execute vengeance on the wicked. That's what the true biblical post-tribulation rapture, post-tribulation rapture is. So hopefully that helps you understand it. So it's first things first, sign of Yahusha in the heavens, right after the tribulation, we get caught up, we get resurrected bodies, we come back down with that messenger army, that Sabaoth, the Sabaoth that's with Yahuwah, we become part of that army and we execute his vengeance on the wicked. So if that makes any sense. So that's what we believe. You can find that in Jude 1, I believe 1:13 or 14. You can find that concept where we're being called, the messengers are being called Kadashim. And then if you look at Revelations 14:12, okay, same phrase. Here is the patience, Revelations 14:12, of the Kadashim, the set apart ones, those who keep the commandments of Yahuwah and belief of Yahusha. So the 144,000 are Kadashim, and so are the messengers. So this is why Yahusha said, you will be in the resurrection, you'll be like the messengers. So hopefully all you guys are following me here. So I don't know why my audio volume keeps clicking off. It's really ticking me off. Okay, so hopefully you guys are hearing what I'm saying here. So, but that's the basic explanation. That's the basic explanation. We do not believe in a pre-trib. We believe in a post-trib. I know there's like three main views in Christianity. You have the pre, the mid, and the post. Mid makes no sense because Yahushua himself says immediately after the tribulation. Matthew 24:29 clearly says that. So mid-trib should not, mid or pre-trib should not even be a view, honestly. If you listen to Yahushua's words, should not even be a view. But going back to the history of this, so the history of this false pre-trib rapture, there, and I have written here, there's no concept in the Tanakh or Brit Hadashah of two second comings. So this is one of the main beliefs that Nelson Darby and all of them promoted, that there's two second comings. So they would teach that the rapture was before the true second coming. So they would teach that he's rapturing his church in the night at midnight or whatever, whisking them away in the night. You know, if you ever listen to Casting Crowns while you were sleeping, pre-trib rapture, okay? It's called the secret rapture doctrine, okay? Very mystical doctrine, okay? Which again, I wonder where that really comes from. That is so mystical, okay? Probably the Gnostics. There's some Gnostic connection there, just conspiracy there. You know, it could possibly tie into the Gnostics because they loved like super spiritual, super mystical stuff. Okay. So there's no distinction between the rapture and the second coming in the Bible. As far as the Bible is concerned, there's one second coming, the day of Yahuwah. That's it, after the tribulation. So we know that belief system, the dispensationalism puts forth, is already false. There's no such thing as a separation from the rapture and the second coming. Okay, so that was promoted by John Nelson Darby. The second bullet point, assertion that the church is not mentioned in Revelation because they are already raptured is an argument out of silence. And let me speak on that. There is no church in the scriptures. Yahuwah's people is not the church. Number one, the church was never a biblical word. It was never there. It was a false translation from ecclesia, which means called out ones, assembly. There is no church. The church is the harlot, okay? The church is not Yahuwah's people. That's number one you got to understand. Like, really basic understanding here is that it's not Yahuwah's people, okay? So that means the whole idea that the church gets raptured before Revelation starts is non-existent because there is no church. The only church is Babylon. That's the only church. So, and I'll show you here. This is where a lot of people will go to. They'll say, oh, the church was in the wilderness. I get it. But the word there originally was not church. Let me just see here. Let me get the actual verse here. Okay, that's your phone. Okay, so the
Right there.
yeah, I got it. So what I want to do is I just want to look at the where it says in Acts they call it. I don't think they'll call it in this version. I have to go to the King James. They'll say in Acts. All right, so I'll show you guys here. Right? So every time you see the word Circe here or church, G1577, ecclesia, gathering of citizens. Citizens of who? Israel. Okay? Called out from their homes. Who was called out from their home? Abraham. Okay? An assembly of people convened at the public place. Okay, so assembly of people. Assembly of believers of Yahusha. That's what an ecclesia is, not a church. Okay? And just to prove this, that this has been misused in the English and mistranslated in the English, I'll go to one of the Protestant reformers. And I know some of you Christians love him a lot. So I'm going to go to this Protestant reformer here, Tyndale. The only two times he ever translated a word as church. So only two times, Acts 14:13, when it's talking about a temple of Jupiter. Acts 19:37, when it's talking about a robber idols. Okay? So for example, Acts 14:13 in the Tyndale Bible, William Tyndale. Then Jupiter's priests which dwelt before their city brought oxen and garlands unto the church porch, and would have done sacrifices with the people. That's Acts 14:13. Acts 9:37. For you have brought here these men which are neither robbed of churches, nor yet despisers of your goddess. That's talking about stupid Semiramis, Nimrod's wife slash mother, Diana. Okay, so you have the concept of churches, according to Tyndale. According to Tyndale, churches only were a temple of Diana or Baal. That's what a church was. And that's William Tyndale, the Protestant reformer, okay? Mm-hmm. Not me. So it's important to understand that. So when you go back to the church was in the wilderness, we know that the word there is not supposed to be church. So what is it actually talking about? So let's just see what it's actually talking about here. So I think it's Acts 7, right? Acts 7, verse 38, right? Chapter 7, verse 38. This is where people get this concept from, okay? Properly translated, it should say, this is he, meaning Yahusha, that was in the assembly in the wilderness with the messenger which spake to him in Mount Sinai with our fathers, who received lively oracles to give unto us. So again, the assembly is Israel. The assembly is Israel, not the church. Yeah. Okay, here. Okay, here. Let me see here. Okay, where are we at here? So we already talked about that. The catching away can't happen until after the tribulation, Matthew 24:29. The righteous are not taken first. So, Mom, could you read possibly Matthew 13? No. Mm-hmm. Matthew 13, 36 to 40.
Okay. Okay. 36 to what, honey?
36 to 40.
Okay. Then he left the crowd and went into the house. His disciples came to him and said, explain to us the parable of the weeds in the field. He answered, the one who sowed the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world. and the good seed stands for the people of the kingdom. The weeds are the people of the evil one, and the enemy who sows them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the age, and the harvesters are Malachim. As the weeds are pulled up and burned in the fire, so it will be at the end of the age. The Son of Man will send out his Malachim.
Yeah. So who's taken first?
The wicked.
The wicked, right?
Yeah.
And they're thrown into the fire. So
So
again,
that is me with a question. If we're being caught up to come back down with Yahusha to pour out his judgment, then how are the wicked taken first?
that brings a good question. So the timing might be a little bit off. Maybe because it's really silent in the New Testament about the exact timing of the harpazo. Maybe the wicked are, maybe he keeps us in a place of safety, like how Isaiah talks about go into your rooms until Yahuwah's indignation passes. To your point, that would match up with Matthew 13:36, that we are being protected like in an ark, physical ark type of situation, where Yahuwah, destroys the wicked, throws them into the fire. So I could be wrong about the timing of the harpazo, or about us. It's very possible I could be wrong about the timing
Well,
of it.
maybe we're looking at two different events, because this is talking about the wicked being cast into the lake of fire, but isn't
Mhm.
that at the very, very end, at the great eternal judgment, not when Yahuwah comes back to pour out?
Yeah. If that's the case, then people definitely cannot be using one's in the field and one will be taken as the second coming. If that's the case, like either way, for our argument or their argument, like if what you're saying is true, then we can't use the ones in the field. One is taken as either post or pre-trib. Like like you're saying, it's a separate event, like completely separate. So that's the only thing. That's the only reason I thought this was talking about the second coming, is because most people try to use this for like the pre-trib, and they don't go to Matthew 13. They just stay. I forget if it's Matthew 25 or 24. I think it's like verse 40 or something, where it talks about there will be two in the field, one will be taken, one will be left. Um, so I wonder, yeah, I wonder if what you're saying is true. Then you really can't use this verse then for the second coming at all, which would kind of be problematic, because then isn't he supposed to gather his elect at the second coming? Because I think that's in the same group of verses here. It says here, so if this is not talking about the second coming, the only problem is then it doesn't make sense for him to mention gathering his elect. Like at the judgment, we would already be gathered. So, like, specific verses I'm talking about here are, okay, the field is the world, the tube seed are the children of Yahusha, the tares are the children of the devil, the enemy that sowed the tares are the devil, the harvest is the end of the world, the reapers are the messengers. So I would assume this has to be second coming, because this is talking about the end of the age, which I believe does happen before.
When it
Oh,
says that the wicked, when it says that two shall be in the field and one shall be, is a different word used in your potso when we're caught up in the sky? If so, then it
Yeah,
could just mean like they're taken first, not that they're caught up in the sky, but that they're literally taken.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, That's kind of what I believe. I believe it's like that verse that you just referenced goes with this verse, that their terrors being taken and thrown into the fire, because then you have like even verses from the Tanakh for support. Like I have on this document here, Proverbs 2, which says, the righteous will be left behind in the earth. So, further on for our point here in this study, you can even go to the righteous are not supposed to be removed from the earth. So, let's see here. Where is it here? Yeah, Proverbs 20. Oh, my bad. 2 verse 21. And it doesn't matter which version you have here, it literally reads the same. For the upright shall dwell in the earth, and the set apart shall be left behind in it. So clearly, we're supposed to be left behind. The elect is supposed to be left behind in the earth. We're not supposed to be removed from the earth, which would go along with what we were just saying about who's being plucked, who's being taken. Um, I think either way, whatever chronological context to two are in the field, one is taken. The one being taken is not the elect. It's the
Okay,
wicked.
okay, so I'm confused about something. What about the 144,000 that are supposed to be that are talked about? Do they have anything to do with the rapture?
Yeah, yeah, they would be the ones actually raptured.
So that
They
would be
so
are they considered the first ones to be raptured, and
yeah.
then the second rapture is the believers?
Um, I believe the 144,000 will collectively. This is how I look at it: is the 144,000 are collectively those that were asleep in Messiah that's being talked about in that first resurrection, and those of us that are alive after the tribulation. So I believe it's like a collective grouping. Like I think there's going to be the dead, and some of the dead in Messiah are going to make up the 144,000, and those who are ever alive that possibly were not martyred. The reason Yahuwah would preserve that those of us that don't get martyred is because we'll make 144,000. Like the way I've always looked at those that had to be martyred, it's possibly because they they are lesser in the kingdom and they had to go through the tribulation. That's kind of something. I'm not saying it's like proven. I'm just saying that's kind of how I look at it. Like the greatest in the kingdom, they're given like an extra sense of like baraka, that they did not have to die. They're for example, like if you go to Revelations, I think 3 it is, he talks about, because you have not denied my name, and all that verse. He says, where is it, Martin? 3 verse 9, I think it is. Or yeah, here we go. Because you have kept, Revelations 3:10, because you've kept the word of my patience. So this is, remember, it says patience here, just like Revelations 14:12. Also shall keep you, I will keep you from the trial that will come over the entire inhabited world to test the inhabitants of the earth. So these are specific believers that, they're, and I get it. I understand that this was supposed to be physical assemblies that he wrote to, but if there's any application from these letters he wrote to these assemblies, this technically would be talking about believers that have kept the word of his patience, have obeyed him fully to the best of their ability, and have not denied his name. They will they will be kept protected during the tribulation. So they would not have to be martyred. They would not have to be put in jail. Because I think Yahushua even says, right? He only says some of you will be martyred, some of you will be put in jail. So Yahushua does not promise that all of us are going to be martyred, or that all of us are going to be put in jail. If I'm not mistaken, my recollection. So I would say, yeah, the 144,000 is the ones they are the ones being caught up. They are the ones that are
But
in the.
brother, aren't they already believers that are being martyred? Are they considered part of that you just mentioned? I mean, there's already believers that are martyred, right?
No.
Well, yeah, from way back when, yeah. I mean, they're as far as right now, I would not consider Christians believers. I would not consider them being martyred for what they believe, as what Yahushua is talking about, the martyr, the blood of the saints. The blood of the saints is his saints. So that's not like,
If you go back to the first century,
yeah,
there's a lot of
yeah,
martyrs.
like when he talks about in Revelations 18, for example, the blood of the Kodashim is in on her hands, and by her cup and all of that, the nations drunk her wine. He talks about that she's stained with the blood of the set apart ones. The set apart ones would be those that are in Yahuwah. Those would be Nazarene. Those would not be. I just want to make it clear for the audience. I'm not talking about Christians, not talking about Catholics. I'm talking about actual Nazarene that were killed by the Vatican. That, Constantine, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of their blood's on his hands. And we don't even know how many he killed at that time. We don't even know. I don't think it's even documented. How many that wanted to keep the Sabbath that wouldn't convert to Christianity, that.
Wow.
And supposedly the Catholic Church has exterminated the history of the Nazarene. They don't want people to know that there was people called the Nazarene or the Nazarenes. They've completely hid it in the dark. So I would say, yeah, like to Sister Marissa's point, I would say those are like, it would include those people, but it would also include those, there will be martyrs during the actual tribulation that will have to wait for the second resurrection. There's two resurrections. So I believe the 144,000 are the second coming resurrection. Then after the millennial, right? I'll read in Revelations 20 real quick just to show you what I'm talking about. So let's go to Revelations chapter 20. So, all right, Satan's loose, yada, yada, yada. We already know about that after the 1,000-year reign. Okay, so let's see here. Before that, okay, it says here, and this is what I was talking about earlier off the record about the apostles here. And I saw seats, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given to them. And these souls who were cut off for the witness of Yahushua and for the word of Eluah. So these are specifically those who were killed for having not just the witness of Yahushua, and this is how we know this is not Christians, but also the commandments. Okay? And they did not worship the beast. So that's another context there. They did not worship the beast, neither its image. No, and this is how you know it's talking about. This is where, by the way, Christianity gets the idea tribulation saints. Mm-hmm. This is where they get it from. So tribulation set apart ones are those that worshiped Yahushua alone, kept his commandments, didn't worship the beast, died in the tribulation. So these are specifically tribulation set apart ones that died. And they did not receive a mark between their eyes or on their hands. They lived and reigned with a Messiah for 1,000 years. Now, and this is the first resurrection. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they actually are in the first resurrection. Okay, so maybe I'm wrong. So that seems to say that they're part of the first resurrection, the martyrs too. Okay, so there must be some believers that are left over, because you see in verse 6 it says, Baruch and set apart is he whoever has part in the first resurrection, and the second death, the lake of fire, has no authority over these, but they shall be priests. Not everyone's priests. The people that are in the first resurrection. They shall be priests of Eluah and of Messiah, and they shall reign with him 1,000 years. And when the 1,000 years are finished, Satan will be released. So it tells about Satan being released. And then after Satan's defeated, we have the white throne judgment where everyone else is resurrected. Okay. So verse 11 here, I saw a great white throne. So this is after Satan's defeated. and him sitting at the top of it, from whose face earth and heaven fled away, and no place was found for them. And I saw the dead, the great, the small, who stood before the throne, and scrolls were open, and another scroll was open, which is the judgment of the judgment, and the dead were judged, meaning dead in general, righteous and wicked. The dead were judged from those things that were written in the scrolls according to their works. And the sea yielded the dead, which were in it. So again, this is how, and it says here, death and Sheol yielded the dead, which were with them, and they were judged one by one according to their works. So maybe Yahuwah does. I would have to take correction that maybe Yahuwah is going to judge even the wicked one person at a time. Maybe that is the case, because that's what it says right there, one by one, according to their works. And the death and Sheol were cast into the lake of fire, and this is the second death. So obviously,
Brother, that will take hundreds and thousands of years for him to do one person at a time.
Yeah, I guess, he is outside time and space and matter. I'm pretty sure he could really accelerate it if he wanted to. He could probably accelerate time. I mean, he made Adam fully grown. No one talks about this, but Yahuwah in one day made Adam and Kua fully grown men and women. Like, there was no growing. There was no baby to adulthood. They were fully grown, able to procreate. So I think sometimes we forget Yahuwah exists outside time and matter. I don't like to use the word space because everyone thinks of outer space, but time and matter. So Yahuwah, time to Yahuwah, like he transcends time. He could accelerate things. So that's something we should keep in mind, that if he really wanted to, he could hurry up the judgment process to where it doesn't really feel like it's that long. But it does. I have to take correction though. It does say one by one they're being judged. Okay, so I was wrong about that. And I apologize. I repent to anyone that's followed this ministry. I used to preach and believe that, that as soon as the wicked were, released from the sea and Sheol and all that, they were just thrown into the lake of fire. So I apologize for preaching that before. Promise you guys I'm not going to preach that ever again. I apologize. So anyway, verse 14.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I've heard this preached before, and I just want to know if you think that this is the case. On chapter 21, where verse 4, where he's talking about the New Jerusalem, and he said, he will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death, or mourning, or crying, or pain, for the order of... Now, there are people that believe that these are the things that the tribulation saints had gone through. No more, famine, no more crying, no more.
It could be included in that, but
kind of like, never again will you do this. Never again will you.
No.
Okay.
It's in general. He's taking away their tears, and he's taking away everyone's tears, not just the saints.
Gotcha.
So yeah, that's I would call that eisegesis a little bit. That's you got to really read into that to get that.
Okay.
That's adding to the text a little bit.
Okay.
I'm not saying that's not included in him wiping away his tears, but that's not the only thing he's
right. Gotcha.
They're not the only people he's wiping their tears and memory from.
True.
So but anyway, verse 14 in chapter 20 says, "Death and Sheol were cast into the lake of fire." This is how you know hell is not the lake of fire. Okay, Sheol, hell is thrown into the lake of fire. Which is the second death. Okay, whoever was not found inscribed in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. I think that's why I always mistakenly I probably used eisegesis back then and thought that verse 15 meant they're just thrown right away into the lake of fire without being judged. So
now, Brother Doug, when you say everyone's tears, you're not talking about the wicked, right? You're only talking about the children of Israel. Because when you say everyone's tears, that could imply everyone. Because, the wicked are also crying too. There's weeping and gnashing of teeth, right?
Well, they would be dead by that point. This is what people need to understand. There's no such thing as eternal torment. They are tormented only for a time, and they're destroyed in the lake of fire. So by the time you get to Revelations 22, that's way after Revelations 20. So there would be no wicked. So when it's talking about everyone, it's talking about the kingdom. It's not talking about, there is no wicked at that point.
Okay, so when you say that they're going to be judged individually by the Father, are they going to be in some place where they're going to be waiting one by one to be judged? Because I'm a little confused about that, because I understand that you say, yes, Abba is not, his time is not our time, his space is not our space, or what have you. But when it comes to judging the wicked, don't you think that the wicked are going to be crying, knowing that they're going to be going into eternity? So what's going to be, where will they be while they're waiting to have this happen?
I think it's going to be in heaven, in the highest heaven. I think they're going to be waiting in line to come to the judgment seat of Messiah, because the white throne judgment is literally in heaven. So the concept of the white throne judgment is literally Yahusha sitting on the throne, and they're going up one by one, and he's judging them out of the book of works. Yeah. So this is in heaven. They're not going into heaven, but they're coming up in line, waiting up in line to be judged. And as he's finishing judging them, after the fact they're being judged, they're thrown into the lake of fire. And so after the judgment happens, then they're thrown into the lake of fire. So that's how I see it happening, because that's where the white throne is. It's in the highest heaven. We got to turn.
So when does earth become heaven? Would that be after where the heaven comes down? Okay.
Yeah, Revelations 22
yeah,
is when that happens. So that's a little bit after. That would have to happen after the judgment. Beautiful chat. Gives the context that pretty much you have no more sin. So what I was trying to say with the wicked, why there's no more sin, is because they're destroyed at that point. They would have already been destroyed by the time the new heaven, new earth comes about. And so you have no more sin, no more sinners, no more Satan, no more false prophet. All of them are destroyed. And so it's perfect again. The whole point of the new heaven, new earth, it's a perfect existence again. It's back to Adam and Kua. It's a new Garden of Eden, a new
21.
earth.
Yeah.
Yeah, 21 I think even talks about it as well.
Oh yeah. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth.
And then the golden city, which is actually what really heaven is, coming down,
right,
becoming part of the new earth. So you have verse 2, I saw the set apart city, New Jerusalem, the golden city, descending from heaven, from beside Yahuwah, prepared like, not is, like a bride adorned for her husband. So you have the golden city. That's the New Jerusalem. That's where we're going to be. We're going to be in the New Jerusalem. And some people try to say, oh, you're going to have, there's all these theories that somehow there would be still wicked outside the court. Well, the problem is that if there's no more sin, you wouldn't have wicked. There would be no wicked people. There's no more sin. So if the former things have passed away, if there's no more sinners, no more Satan, there's no more fall. The fall is over with. That you wouldn't have the wicked. So that's my assumption, is that you're only going to have the righteous. So even when he talks about wipe all those tears away, those, to Marissa's point, be careful not to misinterpret that as meaning like a ecumenical universalist, like that's talking about the non-believers. No, because Yahuwah's only wiping away the tears of his people. And that's who's going to be on the earth. The meek will inherit the earth, not the wicked. And that's what people need to realize. When Yahusha says, Matthew 5, the meek will inherit the earth, he means literally. The earth was meant to belong to the righteous, not the wicked. So the wicked, Yahuwah is exterminating from the earth. And I think I saw a verse last night I meant to share with you guys about how we know. These are one of the instances where we know the lake of fire is not eternal torture. I was looking in 1 Thessalonians for certain verses here, and I noticed that Paul called the lake of fire, he called it like destruction. So this is for a time, an age, then they're destroyed in the lake of fire. So Once that happens, then you have the new heavens, new earth, and then that's it. And that's the end of the book. That's the end of Revelation. And then you have us being with the Father for forever. And so you're going to have a new Garden of Eden. You're going to have all these trees giving fruit, which possibly could be metaphorical as well as physical, that, you know, we now not having our sinful flesh will be bearing fruit all year long. But it could also be referring to, you know, the perfect creation now. There's going to be, you know, there's going to be fruit for healing. There's going to be, you know, we're no longer going to have to deal with processed food. We're no longer going to have to deal with all this stuff that man made. So so that's basically it. So, like, just to recap so far, so we talked about how the second coming is post tribulation. Then you have the Arpazo at some point within that 24-hour period of the day of Yahuwah. Then you have, after that, obviously, there's a gap between that and the millennium. I meant to say this before. You have the marriage supper of the Lamb happening between the rapture and the millennial. Because you have to have the marriage supper of the Lamb before you can have the kingdom start. We have to get married to Yahuwah, to Yahusha. So that has to happen. Then you have the 1,000-year reign. 1,000-year reign happens. After that, you got Satan and all his little Satan's loosened, and then he gathers Gog and Magog for the last great war, and that's when Satan's defeated. Then you have the White Throne Judgment. So the White Throne Judgment is pretty far into end times, like timeline-wise. It's like at the very end. The actual judgment seat is at the very end right before he does the new heaven, new earth. So technically, when that judgment's happening, you still have the present heaven and earth. I know a lot of people, they get confused and they think the new heaven and new earth is in the millennium. But if you really look at scripture, there's no hint that the millennium is going to be on a new heaven and new earth. It's going to be on this present earth. So a lot of people misunderstand the millennial. The millennial is not the same thing as the kingdom of heaven that comes down from heaven, the golden city. That's when we'll be actually in the perfect kingdom of heaven. So the millennial is a temporary 1,000-year kingdom. It's temporary because after that, then you have Satan that has to be defeated. So a lot of people get confused. The millennial is technically Yahuwah taking over that last kingdom and giving it to the set apart ones. That's what's happening, right? So I'll show you in Daniel here what I'm talking about. So a lot of people miss this. They think, like, some of these people think that the millennial is just a spiritual heavenly reign. Okay, so I'll just show you what I'm talking about here. I think it's Daniel, I think 2 or 7. Let me see here.
Oh, where he's talking about the different kingdoms.
Yeah, where it says that the saints.
I think it's 2.
Again, the saints, the Kadashim, will inherit the kingdom. Okay, so here we go. Trying to see here. Here we go. 244.
Mm-hmm.
In those days, oh my goodness, wow. Brenton, jeez, man, you butchered that verse pretty bad. Okay. There we go. In the days of those kings, the complete Apostle Bible fixed that mistake there. The Eluah of heaven shall set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and his kingdom shall not be left to another people, but it shall be to pieces and grind powder all other kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. Whereas you saw a stone was cut out of a mountain. It talks about Yahusha being the stone that's going to destroy the beast kingdom. Talks about it will beat to pieces clay and brass and silver and gold. The great Eluah has made known to the king what must happen hereafter, and the dream is true, its interpretation is sure. Then King Nebuchadnezzar fell on his face. And this is when Nebuchadnezzar says to Daniel, "Truly your Eluah is a Eluah of mighty ones, and a master of kings." who reveals mysteries, for you have been able to reveal this mystery. So, but we see here in verse 44 that we are given that kingdom that Yahuwah defeats. We're given that kingdom. So in a weird way, the millennial, even though I get it, it says that it'll never be destroyed. I get it. But when you look in context with the millennial, it is temporary. It is for 1,000 years, and then the true kingdom of heaven comes. So the millennial is kind of like a taste. The millennial is like, okay, we get to learn Yahuwah's ways for 1,000 years. We get to truly understand his word because he's teaching us. He's using the apostles to rule us and teach us. And that's why scripture says everyone will know him from the least to the greatest. No man will need his neighbor, his brother, to teach him to know Yahuwah, all that stuff. So that's millennial. So don't get confused with millennial versus the actual kingdom of heaven in Revelations 21 that comes down. Those are two different things.
Yeah.
So a lot of people confuse the two. A lot of people mistakenly, unintentionally confuse the two as the same. So the millennial was never meant to be like forever. It was meant to be 1,000-year reign. We get to rest with our Father. We get to learn Yahuwah, his commandments and all that. We get to learn Yahusha and his commandments and a pure, undefiled version of his word. Like right now, we're literally trusting on English translations of his word. Then we will literally be taught his word firsthand. So there will be no more, excuses like misinterpretations and all that. And a lot of people don't realize it, but a lot of the Torah is coming back. I always talk about it. Stoning will be coming back. If people are disobedient, they will be stoned. That's why we need to get right now, because in the kingdom, you're not going to have much time if you're already being rebellious. So, and that's why I always warn people, it's better to get right with Yahuwah now. So here we go. All right, so on to the next cross-reference here. We got 1 Thessalonians 4, verse 13, right? I want you to know, my brethren, that you should not have sorrow for those who are asleep, the dead in Messiah, as do the rest of mankind who have no expectation. For if we believe that Yahusha died and arose in this way, also Eluah shall bring with him those who have fallen asleep in Yahusha. But this we say to you by the word of our Master, that we, those who remain, not everyone, not all believers, those who remain at the coming of our Master, we who have life shall not overtake those who are asleep. Because our Master shall descend from heaven with the command and with the voice of the arch messenger and with the trumpet blast of Eluah. This is how, again, we know that the second coming happens on trumpets. Trumpet blast of Eluah signals the second coming. So again, this is another hint that people take out of context with the pre-tribbers. They look at the trumpets, and you see people on YouTube. Oh, there's trumpets. We're hearing trumpets. No, it has to happen after the tribulation. It's not just a trumpet blast. It's when it happens. Okay, that's why it says at the last trumpet. Okay, the seventh trumpet. Okay, so the dead in Messiah will go first. They will get caught up first. And then we who remain, who have life, we shall be carried away with them together in the clouds. Doesn't say heaven. It says in the clouds, the sky, to the meeting of our Master in the air. And in this way, we shall always be with our Master. So for those out there that want to deny the rapture completely and say that, that because the pre-tribbers are wrong, that there's no rapture, you have to understand the difference in the biblical catching away, post-tribulation catching away that it's proved in Scripture versus the pre-tribbers that have, they get their stuff from dispensationalism. So it's two different complete belief systems. First of all, they think they're going straight up to heaven for the marriage supper. Most of them will say that. They'll say, you talk to a Southern Baptist, they'll say, oh well, yeah, that's when we have the marriage supper, and we as the bride of Christ eat with him at the marriage supper. No, Scripture doesn't say you go straight up to heaven for the marriage supper. It does not say that. You still have the wicked that have to be destroyed. You still have the wicked that have to be destroyed on a physical 24-hour day. So we're not going anywhere. It's not like we're going up to heaven waiting for Yahuwah to destroy the wicked, So at some point on the day of Yahuwah, that 24-hour period, we will be with him destroying the wicked, majority of the wicked. So that's going to happen at some point. And again, like I said, all you have to do is search on a Bible app the word saints in the New Testament, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Saints are either talking about messengers or the Kodashim, the 144,000. That's only two identities of the saints of the Kodashim. They are literally either the 144,000 or messengers. So there's a connection between us throughout the whole scriptures, between Yahuwah's elect and the messengers. We're supposed to become like the messengers physically in the kingdom. We are supposed to have a resurrection and have bodies like the messengers. So all this is supposed to show a connection. Even if you want to go to the Tanakh, right? And what's interesting is that there's this concept that we're supposed to be mirroring his divine counsel or heavenly counsel in Deuteronomy 32, verse 8. Because it actually, I'll read the LXX version of this, and then I'll show you a Targum that has some interesting commentary here. When the Most High divided the nations, when he separated the sons of Adam, right? So this is the Tower of Babel situation. He set the boundaries of the nations, meaning the boundaries of all the countries, according to the number of the messengers of Elua. That's Deuteronomy 32, verse 8 in the Septuagint. Okay? Now, interestingly enough, if you go to, I believe it's the Targum Pseudo Jonathan, if I'm not mistaken, he connects us to the messengers. So this was in the Hebrew culture all the way up to the Second Temple time period. So this was pre-New Testament context. So when John in Revelations is given by Yahuwah, Revelations 14:12, it's not like it's outside of their own belief system. This is not like a new understanding that we are supposed to be like Yahuwah's heavenly counsel in heaven. That's his ultimate plan for us, is to replace I forget if it's Michael Heiser brought this up one time, but one of those guys brought it up, that he believes, even though it's not literally verbatimly word for word in scripture, there's this concept that we to replace those that fell in the heavenly council. Okay, so you got Psalms 81 and all that. Okay, so let me see here. So Deuteronomy 32. We'll get to 32 here. Again, this is the Targum Pseudo Jonathan. These Targums, by the way, are what you would call interpretive paraphrases of the Torah. So it's their interpretation from the late Second Temple time period all the way to the time of Messiah about. So this is, even the Pharisees would be familiar with this in Messiah's time period. So, all right, so here we go. When the Most High made allotment of the world into the nations which proceeded from the sons of Noah in the separations of the writings and languages of the children of men. So they give you a little commentary here, the languages and the writings of the children of men at the time of the division. He cast lot among the 70 messengers. So again, paraphrased, 70 messengers, the princes of the nations. Notice how they already have this concept, principalities, princes of the nations, with whom is the revelation to oversee the city. Even at that time, he established the limits of the nations according to the sum of the number of the 70 souls of Israel. when he went down into Egypt. So what's interesting to me about this commentary is that a rabbi here is associating the 70 original children of Jacob spiritually with the 70 messengers that are over the nations. So spiritually, we throughout the whole Torah, you can see we are connected to Yahuwah's heavenly counsel. I believe that is his desire. We are supposed to replace those from Psalms 81. And I'll read you real quick what Psalms 81 says real quick, not the whole chapter, but I'll just show you what I'm talking about. A lot of people tend to think this is talking about human kings or princes, and it's not. It's very clear it's talking about his original heavenly counsel. So let's go to maybe I'm getting this wrong. No, Psalms 83. Sorry, 83. Okay, it says here. Okay, where is it here? Okay. A psalm of Asaph. O Elua, who shall be compared to you? Okay, what the heck? Oh, it's 82. Sorry, man. I'm getting all messed up today. Psalms chapter 82, verse 1. A psalm for Asaph. Elua stands in the assembly of the mighty ones. Obviously, he's talking about the messengers. And in the midst of them will judge mighty ones. How will you judge unrighteously and accept the persons of sinners? Rightly rule the orphan and the poor. Do right ruling to the low and the needy. Rescue the needy and deliver the poor out of the hand of sinner, out of the hand of the sinner. They do not know nor understand. They walk on in darkness. All the foundations of the earth shall be shaken. I have said it. You are Elohim, meaning mighty ones, plural. And all of you, children of the Most High. He does not call children physically or genetically his children. So in the Old Testament, it's important to understand B'nai Elohim, children of the Most High, is exclusive to the Malachim.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But you will die as men and fall as one of the princes. So this is the concept that I learned a while ago. Yahuwah showed me through multiple people on YouTube that through Yahuwah's word that there's this concept in the Second Temple time period. They called it the Heavenly Council. You had Yahuwah on the main throne, and all the other thrones around him would have been like Michael, Gabriel, Uriel, all them sitting around. And you see this in Enoch, right, Brother Yahusha? What does it say? Wisdom took his place among the messengers, sitting among the messengers. So I think you can even find apocryphal Second Temple literature that expound on what already Psalms 82 says, already what Deuteronomy 32 originally said before the Masoretic changed it. And all that. So this is kind of our purpose in the kingdom. Like a lot of people always ask me, what is our purpose? Our purpose is to take their place. These wicked fallen messengers that screwed up. Yahuwah put them over the countries, over the nations. They were like, nah, I think we want them to worship us. And once Yahuwah saw that, he's like, all right, you're gonna die like men. You're gonna die like the children of men. And so I believe Yahuwah has intention on replacing them with the greatest in the kingdom, with the Kadashim. That's why messengers and the 144,000 are both called Kadashim. The 24 elders, right? 24 elders possibly could represent, 24 of the Kadashim that are, up there. Or it could just be messengers of themselves that are the 24 elders. That's what I always believed. I always believed that the 24 elders are heavenly beings. They're not humans. I know all the paintings out there, you got the humans in white clothing, and you're not going to see that in heaven. Heaven does not have human flesh. Heaven, right. Paul said it himself. Flesh and blood, meaning physical human blood and flesh, cannot inherit the kingdom. Hence why, if you still have people that need a resurrection in the millennial cannot be the same thing as the golden city that comes down. Because the millennial, you're going to have people in it that will not have a resurrected body. You will have those Gentiles who are left over. They will not have a resurrected body. They will choose to join Yahuwah being in a mortal body in a earthly millennial kingdom. I'm not trying to downplay the importance of the millennial kingdom, but understand that the millennial kingdom is not the same thing as the golden city that comes out of heaven. So just want to make sure about that. So anyway, and that's a good question, brother. I don't going back to your original question here in the chat, I don't know how to answer that other than maybe it's not talking about thrown into the lake of fire. Maybe it's talking about they're physically destroyed and they're thrown as bundles into a fire. I don't know. And maybe they still have to be judged later on. I don't know. All I know is that Matthew 13:36 does say that the tares are taken first. So and I think that's the only thing we have to really go on for. Two are in the field, one is taken. That's talking about the wicked. So that other than that, there's no real other context I could go to in scripture. So that's just something that we really got to pray to ask Yahuwah to give us better understanding on. Other than that, I don't know. I'm still kind of leaning on towards that. It could be just that it's not actually the lake of fire, that they could be thrown maybe into the chasm. I don't know. I don't know. That's another thing too, because Mom, when the golden calf incident happened,
right?
When Yahuwah executed his wrath on the wicked Israelites, didn't they go into a type of fire in the earth? Wasn't there like the earth opened up and all that?
It opened up and swallowed them. Yeah. I don't remember.
I wonder if that's the context of Matthew 13. I don't know. That's just something more to look into. I have no idea. That's really a tube question though that I can't really fully answer. So I think though we can all agree though that one would be taken if that is a different Greek word from arpazo. You can't claim either way that the one will be taken, the other left is referring to the rapture. Then, if it's using a different word in a different context, then arpazo, you're not forcibly taken. That's where the whole translating it into the Vulgate got that false idea that you're forcibly raped or whatever, and I think that's where people get confused. But if you look at the Greek word arpazo, it means caught away into the sky. It means you're being caught away. It doesn't mean like forcefully, because actually the root word of rapture is rape. So it gives like a whole different meaning. So, but anyway. You okay, Mom?
Yeah, I'm good.
Let's see here. So, all right, what are we up to now? So so the next bullet point, don't be fooled. Okay, we talked about don't be fooled by rumors of imminent secret rapture. So 2 Thessalonians 2:1-4 is the next one. We're almost done here, guys. So 2 Thessalonians 2:1-4. So a lot of people love to use this, or don't love to use this. They love to ignore this, I should say. When you talk about the pre-tribbers, they don't like reading this. But I beg you, my brothers, concerning the arrival of our Master Yahushua. So mind you, this is the beginning of 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. That the arrival of our Master concerning our assembling with him, meaning caught away, the catching away, that you would not be soon shaken in your minds, neither be troubled, either from word or from a spirit. Maybe he's talking about that demons are teaching the pre-trib, because he's saying don't be troubled from a spirit. Neither from an epistle that is as is from us, namely that behold the day of our Master, or the day of Yahuwah, has arrived. So he's basically saying no way, no how has it already arrived. Let no man deceive you by any means, to the effect that surely no revolt will come, meaning apostasy, and the man of sin, the son of destruction, be revealed. So basically he's saying until that man of sin is revealed, there will be No second coming until that happens. You cannot have it until that happens. So this is why the preacher rapture does not work. And then he talks about the whole abomination of desolation in the next verse. Go ahead, brother.
I was looking up because I heard you say that rapture comes rapture and rate come from the same root word.
Yeah.
It's the Latin verb rapere. But then going on a little bit further, I thought this was really interesting. Just to kind of on a side note, it says that in English, rapture first appeared in the late, even though we know it comes from the Apazzo, just as far as the English word rapture first appeared in the late 16th century to describe a state, condition, or fit of intense delight or enthusiasm or being carried away by emotion. Kind of sounds like Pentecostalism.
Yeah, yeah. And you don't see the word rapture anywhere, do you?
Vulgate.
Yeah, but it's arpazzo. It's not. It's not.
No, it is rapture.
Oh, okay.
In Vulgate, in the Latin Vulgate,
Oh,
it
okay.
is.
All
Yeah,
right.
that's where it came from.
Oh, got it. Got it. Okay.
It came from Jerome in the Vulgate.
Gotcha.
So he was the first one to translate it as rapture.
Mhm.
That's what happened.
All right.
So he took the Greek text that said arpazo, translated it in, or you could say substituted as rapture, because it doesn't mean the same thing. Like it like as far as what it is, well, definitely what it means today, it doesn't mean the same thing. Because if it originally meant raping or forcefully taking someone,
Right.
definitely is not the same thing. So either we have a misunderstanding of rapture today, or something's up, because it doesn't make sense for it to say that when it's talking about, the catching away. That's why they translate it in most English Bibles today, like the ISR and all them will say catching away in First Thessalonians. So the only time you really get it as rapture is the Vulgate. So yeah, it's weird. I think that whole word of itself has disillusioned people to what this actually is. Yeah, so I think it would have been in verse 17 here. Meet in the air with the master. Yeah, friendly encounter. It's definitely not something forced. That, even though it's a different word, I mean, it's the same concept as arpazzo. So, all right, what other verses I got here? Okay, here's another one they'll use, like a thief. They love to use that phrase, like a thief. It's well, don't you know he's going to be like a thief in the night? But to whom? The question is, to whom is he going to be like a thief in the night? So here we go. I think it's 1 Thessalonians 5. But you do not need to be written about times and seasons, my brothers. Moedim, okay? For you truly know that the day of our master so comes as a thief in the night, but you got to keep reading here, okay? Don't stop there. When they shall say peace and safety, sudden destruction shall rise upon them as labor pains upon a pregnant woman, and they shall not escape. But you, my brothers, and of course they never go down to verse 4 here, you, my brothers, meaning Israel, meaning Yahuwah's people, you are not in darkness, that the day should overtake you as a thief. For you are all children of light, children of the day, not children of the night or darkness. So again, he's talking about spiritual darkness, okay? He's talking about sin. Those that are in lawlessness, that are in sin, it will overtake them as a thief. So this cannot be used as a secret rapture, okay? This is why people love to stop at like verse 2. Oh, see, that says it's going to be like a thief in the night. No one's going to know. No. Again, read Matthew 24:29. Paul's not going to contradict Yahusha, okay? The appearance of the beast, and the abomination of desolation has to happen before the second coming happens. Okay, 2 Thessalonians 2, 4-8. Again, this is the context is it's talking about after the tribulation. Because the beast has to come forth and make a covenant, then the abomination desolation happens, then you're already in the tribulation. So anyone teaching a pre-trib rapture, they're teaching against what Shaul taught. Okay, but as we were tested by Alua, oh, I'm sorry, this is 1 Thessalonians, my bad. 2nd chapter 2, verse 4. He who opposes, so this is abomination desolation right here. He who opposes himself exalts himself against everything that is called Alua, and I don't like the word religion there, or worship. Just as he will sin the temple of Alua as Alua, will show concerning himself as if he is Alua. Do you not remember that when I was with you, I said these things to you? Now know not what controls, that he may be revealed in his time. I kind of like how the King James says, now you know who withholds, who holds back. Because in context, this is talking about Michael here. He's holding back the spirit of anti-Messiah. Okay? And now you know what withholds, that he might be revealed in his time. So basically it's saying as long as Michael's holding back, the anti-Messiah is not going to be revealed. That's why Yahuwah tells him in Daniel 12, at that time, Yahuwah will say, Michael, stand up. Okay? For the mystery of lawlessness does already work, only until that which now restrains is taken out of the way. Then shall the wicked one be revealed, or the wicked be revealed, whom Yahushua shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Even him, whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power, signs, and lying wonders, all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they received not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. So again, Yahuwah is not going to force you to accept him and Yahusha. If you love your sin, then he's going to leave you there. He's not going to put a gun to your head and say, believe in me. He's not going to do that. So, and again, Romans 1, again, not everyone's going to be preached to literally, verbally about the good news. Okay, so there's going to be people that reject him just by rejecting even the visible signs of Yahuwah Yahusha existing. There will be people that never get preached to but automatically reject the idea of him. They will say, oh no, well even though this tree is here, I still don't believe there's a creator. People that say that in their heart and really believe that are already judged. Mm-hmm. They already are without excuse, as Romans 1 says. So, no. All right, so where are we at here? We talked about Zechariah 14 earlier.
Hey, brother, I have a question.
Yep.
Okay, so you know how we've all discussed about Pharaoh and his heart being hardened, and pretty much, he had no will or whatever. What would you say to the comment that you just made about these people that are going to be lost? Do you think that a person that is sensible would want to have Yahuwah completely destroy them? Or do you think that they're predestined? Because, okay, so if that's the case, predestination, there are people that were predestined to die, but then they came to, there's a lot of people that were so involved in like the occult and all this stuff, and then Yahuwah brought them out of that and brought them into the truth. So how do we explain this to people that are going to be destroyed? Do they have a will? Do they have any choice because they were predestined for this?
To a certain extent, Yahuwah gave a free will to even the wicked that reject him, because they still have you still have a free will to choose or reject him. But the idea that just because there's predestination that there's no free will, I would say is a false understanding of what biblical predestination is. Predestination is the idea that Yahuwah, yes, he has selected from the foundation of the earth who will come to him, who will receive his call, because he foreseen knew who would receive him or not. So basically anyone that received him, they would not be able to receive him outside of his will. He is sovereign. So this is a righteous idea of sovereignty that you can see in Exodus 20 as early in the Bible as Exodus 20, where Masha like is saying, well, basically he's trying to atone for Israel, say, write me out of your book, right? And Yahuwah's like, no, that's not how that works. Those that sin against me, I will remove out of my book. Now, Yahuwah also says, I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy on. So a lot of people might think this is wrong, or that this is in their eyes, that it's evil in their eyes, because they've been taught that they're entitled to mercy. They're not entitled. No one's entitled to his mercy. He chooses who he wants to lead to repentance. So like Brother Yahusha says in the chat here, is a little bit of both. The true biblical idea of predestination works with free will combined. So Yahuwah gives the free will for someone to heed his call, but at the same time, he, before they were born, chose who he was going to call, who he was going to elect. So he chose us. We didn't choose him first, and you can find that in John 17. So the idea that the problem where the error is people don't like predestination, so they want to think it's all up to them.
Right.
If Yahuwah's all powerful, he's not going to give it all up to you and let you decide whether you're going to be saved or not.
Control.
You're not in control of your own life, okay? He's the potter, we're the clay. Book of Jeremiah, okay? Romans 11, you can see in Paul, he talks about this. Who are you to judge your maker? Who are you to say it's wrong that Yahuwah chooses some and he doesn't choose others? The Christian church, especially the evangelical church, has taught us that predestination is evil, but they don't even really understand predestination. They understand it from a Calvinistic perspective, which is a tampered with perspective. Like the Calvinists twist and they pervert predestination into something that it never was. It doesn't mean that everything's predetermined, because we see in the Potter's Vessel chapter, Yahuwah also gives allowance for if you have a humbled heart and repent of something, he can elect you if he wants. So he can change his mind if he wants and say, okay, no, I will choose this person because of their heart. So I would say it works in tandem with free will. That's where we're not taught correctly, is because we're taught it's either one or the other. The Bible does not teach it's one or the other.
So then what about, you just said about the heart. So what about when it says, well, he knows my heart?
Yeah, but the human heart is wicked.
Yeah.
Human heart is wicked.
Who could know it?
What I mean by he looks at the heart, he looks at your humbleness, not that your heart of itself is righteous. He looks at your humbleness. That's why he chooses who he chooses. He looks at David, for example. He chose him to be king because of what was inside him. Not that David was perfect on the inside, but that he had humbleness. He had a childlike faith. Those people that are usually not elected usually don't have that. And usually he knew they would not choose him anyway. Yahuwah has foresight. This is why he says through John in Revelations, right? He says, the lamb slain from the foundation of the world, meaning that it was already predestined Yahushua was going to die for the elect. It was already predestined all this stuff was going to happen. Now, does that mean that people have no choice in receiving Yahuwah's call? No, they have a choice. They have a choice, because it also says in the parable of the sower, some that chose to follow him but really were not rooted fall to the wayside. So some will originally receive the call, then not really hold on to the faith, and they'll fall away anyway. So there is free will involved. But at the same time, Yahuwah does not promise that he gives us free will all the time. I think that's where the Christian church has erred. Yahuwah can not, and he doesn't have to give free will to everyone at every moment. Like for Pharaoh, there were times where you got to slow down a little.
Yeah, I swallowed wrong.
You just got
No, I swallowed the soda wrong, and it got into my windpipe.
Yeah. So, but basically, like for example, Pharaoh, right? At times he took away his free will.
Right.
But then when Pharaoh rebelled himself, Yahuwah gave him that free will back. So what you really had in the Exodus story, you had example of a vessel of wrath choosing to remain a vessel of wrath that Yahuwah purposed as a vessel of wrath because he was rebellious himself and he chose to be rebellious, but Yahuwah made him
I'm all right.
he made him more rebellious. So where the predestination came in is that Yahuwah hardened his heart even more than it already was hardened. So that's where people get confused even with the Pharaoh thing, is that even with Pharaoh's situation, there was free will with predestination. So that's where people misunderstand. So but there is concepts of people just being vessels of wrath, predestined from the foundation of the world. And there is examples of that. Now, does that mean that they're doomed and that Yahuwah can't change his mind and turn a vessel of wrath to a vessel of honor? No, it doesn't mean that at all. But when you look at people that were extremely wicked, like Hitler and Pharaoh and these tyrants, these tyrants that really didn't care about anyone. Yahuwah, it's very obvious to me Yahuwah did not elect them in the first place, and they chose to continue to be that wicked. They had a hardened heart, so Yahuwah allowed them to remain a vessel of wrath. But I mean, there's tons of scriptures that show this concept, like Proverbs. The wicked are created for the day of destruction, and there's a lot of things that we kind of ignore because it's uncomfortable to us. Yeah. It's uncomfortable to us because we struggle with how is Yahuwah righteous, yet predestination is real. And I think it's because we've been taught a false version of Yahuwah. This hippie with a peace sign, or this big meanie demiurge like Gnostic view of him, and it's corrupted our thinking. It's corrupt. My ways are higher. That's why Yahuwah says his ways are higher than our ways. His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. And we in our puny little mortal minds, we're trying to understand every aspect of his character all at once. Like he doesn't expect that. He just expects us to trust that he's righteous and have blind faith that he's righteous. That's right. And if what he says, if he's a righteous, perfect being, that means everything in his word is righteous. That means him selecting some for salvation, others is righteous. And the problem is we've been taught in the church this demon of self-entitlement, that everyone is entitled to mercy. When you look at Exodus chapter 20, he says, I will have mercy on whom? Not on everyone. He never says everyone. He says on whom I will have mercy. So even the mercy, his mercy leads to repentance, right? The New Testament talks about that. So without his mercy, you're not going to be led to repentance. And so there's all these places in scripture that have been misunderstood because of that. All these places where people have misunderstood his righteous sovereign will. Go ahead, Mom.
I also, when you were talking about Paul saying, who are you to tell the potter how to make the clay, the very fact that he was saying that back then means that they had the same issue to deal with that we have today, of feeling like, well, who are you to tell me that I should be your wonderful son or wonderful daughter? Who are you to tell the potter about the clay? So I just wanted to say that the fact that he said it way back then in what was it, Corinthians or Romans, I forget. The very fact that he had to say it way back then was that the same problem existed back then that exists today.
Yep. All right, Mom, I'll be back. Can you just keep it going? I just need to take a little real quick.
Let's see, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I was thinking about.
What I was gonna say when I said it was both in the comments, definitely I agree with what Doug said, but I was more along the lines of, oh, let me go back to my comment. Will harden their heart so much that they reject Yahuwah, but they had a chance. Well, I think actually, I think you did touch on this. I think you at first you were going a different way, but because what I had meant was that you'll have people that have a chance that it's not that they're vessels of wrath, they're just vessels, and they can choose Yahuwah if they want to choose him, but they don't. They just harden their hearts to the point where they choose not to. And then you have vessels that don't have a choice, that were created for vessels of wrath. But I think you did touch on that actually.
Right. Yeah. And even like the funny thing is some Christians today they love the soft idea of predestination, that they at least acknowledge that he's chosen some for salvation ahead of time and others for not. And so his predestination works on our free will. So there is some Christian churches other than the Calvinists that actually understand this. They understand it, but they only go the little bit. They only go a little bit into it. They don't want to accept that Yahuwah could override our free will at times. Mm-hmm. So that's what they don't want to accept. Because that means, oh my goodness, I'm not in control of my own life. I'm not like Neo. And that's a Gnostic. It cracks me up that a Gnostic movie puts that out there in plain sight. It's showing you where that mindset's from. It's from a demon. To be fully in control of your own life. First of all, you're not a child of Yahuwah if you look at your life that way. Yeah. I'm just going to call a spade. You're still of the world then, if you look at your life that way. Not fully 100% in control of your life, like you do your will all the time. You're still in the world then. Yeah. So that theology of itself is not biblical. We are all pawns in this cosmic chess match. I don't know if you guys ever heard of L.A. Marzulli, but when we look at Deuteronomy 32:8, it's a cosmic heavenly chess match. Yahuwah takes one nation, right? Deuteronomy 32:8-9. He allows Satan to take the Gentiles. And he says, okay, basically the scenario would be Yahuwah challenging Satan, saying, okay, I'll just take this one little nation that's the littlest of all the kingdoms. I'll beat you, and you can have all these Gentile nations. You can have all these other 70 to 71 nations. I'll pick one, and I'll still beat you. And so that's what's happened. These nations were given into the rule of these principalities. They are in reprobate minds under these principalities. And so Yahuwah's mission with Yahusha was to bring his elect out of all of those nations. That's the purpose of preaching the good news. That's what Israel's goal was from the Tanakh, was to bring the message of the kingdom of Israel to all the nations, to see who had an ear to hear, who would be grafted in. There was always a selection process. The whole grafting in process promotes predestination. So that's why I say it's dangerous to look at John 3:16 and all these other verses like ecumenically, like that's everyone. No, because then what's the point of the grafting in process? If Yahuwah is choosing everyone, right, and he wants everyone to be his children, why wouldn't you just, have the whole world as his children rather than being grafted in? What would be the point of being grafted in then? The point of being grafted in is that you're taking people away out of the world. You're removing them from Satan's kingdom. You're removing them from being tares. You're basically the field is the world, right? And you got tares and wheat together. Basically, Yahuwah chose from the foundation of the world who's going to be the wheat, who's going to be the tares. And he has also given us free will at certain points in time to choose to become a wheat if we're a tare. And there's been times where people have chosen to be a tare, and other times where certain individuals are predestined to be a tare. Pharaoh's one of them. All these tyrants are one of them. Like the king of Assyria was one of them.
Yeah.
He was very demonic.
Yeah.
You could see how hardened his heart was of himself. He called Yahuwah idol. He literally falsely accused the Elohim of Yasharal as an idol. He was that wicked in his heart. And
Yahuwah took care of him.
Yeah, Yahusha came down as Malach Yahuwah in that time period and slaughtered like 180,000 of his men. And Sennacherib like ran like a little,
and his own sons killed him.
Yep, his own sons.
His own sons.
Yep.
Yeah, you don't say those things about Yahuwah.
Yeah, it's funny because Yahusha later on in his ministry said in the end times, men's enemies will be those of his own household. Yeah. So that's funny.
That is funny.
So no one can tell me Yahusha doesn't have a sense of humor. Telling you right now.
Oh yeah, he sure does. He sure does.
I think Gnosticism has poisoned our minds because people, again, don't understand where Christianity comes from. It is Gnostic. It is. I just found a link last night where the history of it shows that there was multiple sects of Gnosticism, and eventually at some point one of the groups, I forget if it was Valentinian or one of those groups that wasn't fully anti-Yahuwah. They weren't like, big, bad, evil demiurge. They didn't believe that. But they believed in a softer type of Gnosticism. I think that became known as Orthodoxy later on. So what happened was you had all these Gnostic groups, all with heretical beliefs. And one of the softer Gnostic groups became known as the Orthodox Christians. But basically they were never Nazarene. They were never... And I commented on a brother's video on Facebook because I could see Yahusha was getting through to him. He was almost there. I was like, you're almost there, but you got to realize Christianity was not created by Constantine. You're almost there. You're almost there. But you got to go a little bit before Rome. A little bit before Rome, because the Christian, even the mighty one of the Christians predates Catholicism. Okay, Bishops of Christ, Serapis, okay? Research Serapis online. That's the origin of Christianity. The Gnostics and the worshipers, the Greeks that worship Serapis and the Gnostics, basically. That's where the real origin goes to. And you were talking about, Mom, that even in Paul's day, right, they had a problem with understanding Yahuwah's sovereignty.
Yeah.
Think about who he was preaching to, though. He was preaching to the Romans.
Right.
How are they going to really understand Yahuwah's full-on character when they haven't even been worshiping him their whole lives?
Yeah.
So you're talking about Goyim, Roman Gentiles, trying to understand the scriptures like right away. They're not going to fully understand Yahuwah's character. So we're kind of like them. We come from you and I definitely come from an Italian background, Roman pagan background, and we don't even fully understand the scriptures from a Hebraic point of view.
Yeah.
Even Yahuwah's own people didn't. You have what was it, Brother Yahusha? You mentioned the Book of Jubilees is a perfect example. They didn't even understand Yahuwah's character because every time something they thought was questionable happening that Yahuwah did in the Torah, they would attribute it to the devil. And it's weird. It's like there was this hippie Kabbalistic spirit that would not let them understand that Yahuwah has wrath. He has righteous wrath and vengeance. So every time, like for example, the Gershom circumcision of Gershom and stuff like that, they anytime they thought something in their eyes, they thought it was evil. But Yahuwah's punishing Masha because Masha's not following his commandments. How is that evil?
Yeah.
So they had like a similar spirit to the Christians. Whoever wrote the Book of Jubilees, they did not like anything that was judgment or wrath, or they just wanted Yahuwah to be like this, like almost like this Christian God you see today, where they look at it like he's only peace, only mercy, only love, and there's no wrath, there's no judgment. And you see that in the book of Jubilees, like almost where they anything that would go against their own idea of the Father, they attribute to Satan. You know, so it's weird. It's like really, really, really weird. So anyway, it's just for those people out there I know that have asked me in the past why I don't believe in Jubilees. That's one of them. It revises the whole book of Genesis practically. It gives you revisionist history. It completely contradicts. And I see a lot of people coming into this walk actually claiming that it agrees with Genesis, and I have to chuckle when I hear that. It does not agree with Genesis at all. But anyway, so back on topic here, because I want to just finish this up. We're almost done here. We already talked about Zechariah 14 earlier, right? And Jude 1, 14 and 15. All right, we only got one verse left, guys. At the last trump. Very important verse here. 1 Corinthians 15:52. 1 Corinthians 15:52. So this is like the last verse here. And the fact that Paul says at the last trump, this should have been the number one verse that most of us go to, because clearly it's talking about the last trumpet, the seventh trumpet. Okay, it's clearly talking about that. No.
Where did he go?
I'm here. 1 Corinthians 15:52. In a twinkling of an eye, in a moment, a twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet, for the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. So a lot of the times the Christians read this and be like, okay, it just says at the trumpet, the last trumpet. What is the context here? What is the last trumpet? Okay, Matthew 24:31. After the tribulation, okay, he's gathering the elect from the four winds of the earth. 1 Thessalonians 4:16. Okay, at the trumpet shout, at the voice of an arch messenger. All of this is connected. The seventh trumpet is the last trumpet. So meaning he can't return until the seventh trumpet happens, which we are nowhere near there. We are not even in the tribulation yet. The beast has not even gone in the third temple yet. So this is why it's important.
But see,
Yep, go ahead.
I was just kidding. I was gonna say, but yeah, but really, we're really in Satan's little season. The
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was trying to multitask. I was listening to you and your message here.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
you guys are breaking out pretty good.
I don't know why that's doing that if we're on hotspot. That makes no sense. Yeah, I forgot about that. Thank you for reminding me about the whole heart thing. Yeah, so the Septuagint doesn't say wicked, which is actually kind of interesting. It says deep, that it's deep, or that it's really what they're trying to relate is that it's a tricky matter. The heart is deep, like it's hard for a man to know his own heart. You know, but yeah, I think either version is honestly valid. I think either version can be hinting at the same thing, that it's when we say he knows our heart, yeah, but that could be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on where your heart's aligned with. If it's aligned with your flesh, or if it's aligned with his spirit, because your heart is just an organ. Your thoughts, though, is really what Scripture is talking about as your heart. Like your heart and your thoughts are connected. So if your heart is trusting in your own flesh and your own understanding, that's where you go wrong. Which most of us have done in our lives. I mean, almost at any point in our existence, we've done that. So yeah, I think either way, it's very, yeah, it's dangerous to say he knows our hearts.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, yeah, and he also knows that you're flesh and you have sinful flesh in your body and you're tempted by your flesh all the time. So you're not going to have a perfect understanding on things and have a perfect understanding of everything that's going on in areas in your life, and that's why we have to trust in what he says and not what we think. So that's why, there's. But yeah, that is a 2 point though, that only the Masoretic says the heart is wicked. I find that interesting. And I wonder, what the tradition was back in the Masoretes' time, if they just assumed like everyone was evil, like they looked at all humanity as, you know, that no one could have a clean heart. I don't know. That would be something to look up with the rabbinical traditions. Um, but anyway, yeah. Yeah, so I apologize for us breaking up today. What's weird is that this whole time we've not dropped since we changed the connection, so I don't know what is going on. I don't know. But anyway, so anyway, the last trumpet, the seventh trumpet, it's always obviously talking about, which I believe you can find in Revelations 19 if you want. We don't have time to go into that today, but if you guys want to read about the seventh trumpet, it's in Revelations 19. It's clearly showing that the seventh trumpet is not even happening until you're practically almost done with the tribulation. You're practically, and it goes all the way through in Revelations 19, and it's in context of Babylon's already destroyed, salvation has come, the great whore was judged, all that. So that's post, destruction of Babylon the Great, or mystery Babylon. So you when you look at the context here, the last trumpet is actually very, very important. It shows when this is happening. So again, and if anyone has any questions, if people have questions, they still are not fully on board and think we're wrong about post-trib, I have no problem chatting up. I have no problem showing you guys, all these scriptures. And again, the important thing to remind everyone again. Okay, actually, the one last verse I wanted to go through, because I don't know if we did. I don't think we did Matthew 24:36, because I do want to just end with this, because I know this is the one verses, like Marissa brought this up earlier, from the other point of view that people would have, is the whole no one knows the day and hour. So this is the verse everyone likes to use, whether they're pre-trib, post-trib, and I think it really has been taken out of context because of not looking at the prior verses. Okay, so right here, if you start here, and this is where the preterists they get this weird understanding. They think he's trying to say that very generation of the apostles is when he returns. But that's not what he's saying. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass. So he's talking about a generation that all this is going to happen in, which again, 70 AD did not fulfill all these things. This generation shall not pass till all of these things be fulfilled. So that can't be 70 AD. Okay. Heaven and earth shall not pass away. Okay, so it's talking about heaven and earth, the old heaven and earth passing away, the new heaven and earth coming, but my word shall not pass away. Now, people love to jump to this next verse without reading the verse I just read. But of that day and hour, no man knows, not the messengers of heaven, but my Father only. If your version says neither the Son,
That's
the Westcott Hort text added neither the Son. So that's why I'm so big on certain manuscripts of the New Testament. I don't like the Westcott Hort, because whoever did that Codex Sinaiticus originally did not believe the Son was the Father. They clearly added that in there. Okay, so again, of what day and hour? The day heaven and earth pass away, because it says it right in the previous verse. And it says of that day and hour. So if it's the next verse, it's going to talk about the previous verse. Okay. Now it gets to the second coming in verse 37. But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. So again, he gives us a hint. So it can't be an imminent, no one knows ever when he's coming. Okay, because he's saying right after that, when he does talk about the day of his second coming, he says, as the days of Noah were, so shall it be when I come back. So what is he saying? He's saying, as Genesis 6:4, so is when I come back. So he's giving you an idea of when he's coming back. The days of Noah, Genesis 6:1-4, and we can go to that. Okay, it clearly talks about messengers and women mating, giants, all that. Okay. So, for as in the days of the flood were, or no, this is interesting. As in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage until the day that Noah entered the ark. Now, a lot of people will say, oh, well, see, Doug, it just means regular sin and going about their business. No, it doesn't.
Well, if you read the chapter,
because, again, what were they drinking? What were they eating? See, this is what happens when you reject the book of Enoch. What were the giants eating? What were the giants drinking? What did they teach mankind to do? Drink blood, eat each other. Then it makes sense what he's talking about. He's talking about the time in human history when he comes back, it will be exactly like the days of Noah and the days of Jared. Hence why you should know what happened in the days of Noah.
Yeah.
So anyone that tries to tell you verse 36 says, oh, he could come at any time, wrong. 2 verses later tell you otherwise. The verse prior to it tells you that day and hour is not even talking about his second coming. Okay? So it's important, guys, use context. Use context. Okay? So, and again, a lot of people will say, oh, I don't need to read the book of Enoch. Even if you don't want to believe it's scripture, as far as cultural relevance of the Hebrew people, and as far as understanding what the days of Noah were like from a historical perspective, you might want to give it a try. Because many of you, most of you that want to reject Enoch right away before even testing it, are the same people that believe in the Sethite theory, are the same people that don't even understand who the sons of Elohim are. Okay? So you might want to look into books like that, because books like that give you historical relevance to the Bible. So again, like whenever someone says to me it's not a salvational issue, I'm not telling you it is. The point is, though, it will become a salvational issue if you still believe in the Sethite theory and all these things are going to happen. You're most likely probably going to lose your belief. There's verses in the book of Luke that talks about there's going to be terrors in the heavens. If you think that the Sethite theory is what happened in the days of Noah, and you think that's all going to happen, that unbelievers are going to marry believers, well, I don't know what to tell you when you start seeing some weird stuff. When you start seeing some hybrid locusts coming out of the bottomless pit on the TV, you start seeing some weird stuff. And you're the same people that want to say, oh, well, that's mythology. That's not the Bible. That's mythology. Newsflash, there's tons of mythological creatures in the Bible. So I'm just saying, if you don't want to get into Enoch, that's fine. But at least research for yourself what the original biblical understanding of B'nai Elohim was. It's not sons of Seth, okay? And you're going to be deceived if you don't look into that. You will be deceived. So that's why the devil wants everyone to think it's kissing cousins and that the giants were just tall men, mortal men. That's the deception there. Because when these giants come back, like Isaiah 13 says in the Septuagint, when you start seeing these weird creatures, a lot of people are going to freak out. A lot of Christians out there are going to freak out. And they're going to be like, oh my goodness, I don't know what's going on. A lot of you are not ready, whether our brothers and sisters or Christians. A lot of you are not ready. Because I know a brother in this walk that still believes in the Sethite theory. You're going to be deceived. And you're leading people deceived. If you're actually teaching the Sethite theory, it's even worse. Because you're teaching heresy. Okay? And so, you know, that's just take heed to my warning. It does matter. It is important to understand what the days of Noah were. Okay. Daniel 2:43, another one we can go to. Okay. Just to prove to you, this is a specific time period in human history that will be around the time of Yahusha's second coming. So right here it says Daniel 2:43 in the Septuagint, whereas you saw iron mixed with earthenware, meaning clay, they shall be mingled, meaning the iron will be mingled with the seed of mankind. But they shall not cleave together, as iron does not mix itself with earthenware. So what does that mean? It means that these watchers, or whatever fallen angels that are going to be around at that time, they will literally do the same thing again. You will see Genesis 6:4 happen again. And what it's saying is that on a spiritual level, they can't mix. So it's going to be like a divided kingdom.
Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah.
So hopefully you guys take that heated warning, study these scriptures, and again, guys, like I think we need to start being more careful about setting dates and stuff like that. Again,
Yes.
every time someone in human history has done that, Yahuwah on purpose has exposed them and made them not their prediction never come true. Because he doesn't go by humans' clock. He doesn't go by our clock. He has his own prophetic word, which he's warned us that things have to happen before the second coming. So anyway, so hopefully you guys take this as a message of building up, especially our brothers and sisters in Yahusha, in Yahuwah. I'm warning you guys, mainly this message was for you guys. Please don't be listening. Please don't be listening to all these so-called prophets on YouTube that want to claim that there was supposed to be a rapture today. Okay? Be grounded in the word. Shabbat shalom, everyone. Have a joyful rest of Yom Teruah, and Yahuwah Yahusha willing. See you next time. All right.